for Fail2Ban. So if you haven't already, go ahead and sign into iLab at h5.devsec.club and start your VApp. VApp's deployed. VApp good. Okay.
Yes.
Forgot to mute notifications. There we go. So there we go. Yeah, so go ahead and log into h5.devsec.club and start your VApp. It's going to be your name underscore DL205. So I don't know why my taskbar appeared now, but that's cool. Okay. So what is Fail2Ban? Fail2Ban is brute force protection and prevention software. It monitors logs. Oh, there's a fly. It monitors logs and then can do things based on what it sees in those logs. Super modular and customizable. So why Fail2Ban? Fail2Ban is great for times when you need password authentication enabled for SSH or something like that. For example, in an environment with a lot of users where users come and go pretty often, so you can't give everyone an SSH key. Or for something like a CCDC style event where you have a scoring engine that needs credentials, but you don't want red team getting in. It's also great for software that doesn't have a built-in auto ban, but does have good logging, because you can set it up to work with pretty much any logs. And I'd definitely recommend it on almost any public-facing server, as long as you can set it up for your log type, because it works pretty great, and yeah. So how does it work? It monitors logs, uses a filter to find events in the logs, and then executes an action when enough of the events are found. So for example, user tries to log in with their password, gets accepted. Hacker tries to log in with their password, doesn't work, then the server logs that, and then Fail2Ban's watching this log, sees, oh, there were 3 failed passwords, and then blocks it. One important thing to remember is it won't block the first attempt. So if the hacker has your password or like has 1 or 2 passwords that it could possibly be, then they can still get in. This isn't this isn't the solution, but it helps. So open up server here. I did not do that right. Open it up. Launch web console. So we have our nice Ubuntu server here. Pop up some annoying message telling you that you don't have internet, but you don't need it until the end of the lab. Okay, so first of all, we need to be sudo to edit any files. Okay, so the Fail2Ban, the main directory for it. Yeah, just thought about that. There we go, that should be better. So the configuration directory is /etc/fail2ban, like a lot of things. It does have a few config files in here, a bunch of different files. The main config file for all of your jails, which is how Fail2Ban works, is pretty big, a lot of text there. Most of it is just comments and random defaults, so you don't really need to read through the entire thing. You don't want to change that one, so that is jail.conf. There we go. You don't want to change this file. It's super long. If we open that up, there we go, like that. You can see super long, but a lot of it's comments, and it has all sorts of defaults and stuff like that. It also says like, hey, don't change this. You don't want to modify this file. So the way that you actually change settings is with jail.local. So jail.local doesn't exist by default, so you have to create it. So jail.local, whoa, I can't spell. Local, there we go. So how do the configs work? Basically, there's a heading. So this is like a section heading right here. Heading. Ooh. And then you have different config options. So some config equals a value. If we look at fail2ban.config, it's basically a template, and we can see that it has a bunch of options like that and tons of comments in here. So one of the most important things is actions. So that's going to be what happens. Oh, that's how we ban someone. What happens when we want to ban them. So like right here, you can see this is the default declaration for actions. And there's lots of parts to this, so I'm going to go through that. Let's see. There we go. So right here, action underscore, that's the variable. And then right here, this is actually substituting in the value of another variable. So we have this variable up here, ban action, which is set to iptables-multiport. So action is takes this and substitutes it in right there for that, and then gives some arguments to it. So if we have some variable that, like, well, if we have action, we want to do a certain action, then you could do like iptables multiport, and then give it some arguments. So port we want to block is maybe like port 22. Something like that. This just simplifies or makes it a little bit more modular. So you can specify a different ban action here. You can specify different ports based on the config. No, I'm going to save that. There we go. So jail.local is going to be where you're going to want to make any local changes. The .config files generally are managed by the repo. So those ones, when you get a new version of the software or something changes in the software, the .config files are most likely going to be overwritten. Your .local files aren't. So your .local files are just for changing a few configuration variables. Your .config file is like the main setup and the defaults. So jail.local, first section is default. Can spell. So there's a bunch of different options. Some important ones, ignore self. That's going to ignore any log messages initiated from an IP address that the box owns. So that's like if you were trying to SSH in from the box you have to itself. You probably wouldn't want to ban that. That could cause a bunch of problems if you start like blocking all network traffic locally. Kind of awkward. So ignore self. That's generally a good thing to enable. If Red Team has access to your box with a lower privilege shell, they can, of course, SSH into localhost to do privilege escalation, except that's not necessarily the most efficient way because they could also just like log in as that user or brute force it that way or use any number of other attempts. So this generally a good thing to have enabled, will help keep it so that you don't break things accidentally if you try to SSH into yourself and get the wrong password. So then some other important things, ban time. So that's going to be ban time. That's going to be how long by default someone's banned when they should be banned. So the default is, I think, 10 minutes, possibly an hour. I don't remember. I changed it for this. So if you do like ban time 10 minutes, that's going to be a default, or that's going to set the default ban time to 10 minutes. Find. Oh. So find time is how far back in the logs to search for actions. So Fail2Ban, every time that something's added to the log, Fail2Ban looks at it and sees if it matches one of its filters for one of the jails that are enabled. If it matches, then it will search back find time amount of seconds, or in this case, 10 minutes. to see how many more of those, how many more things match that filter. And then if it's greater than max retry, then it will ban that IP address. And then one of the other things that people commonly mess up is it says enabled equals false at the bottom of the jail.config. Ooh, or well, at the bottom of the default section for it. So right down here, a little bit further. Maybe, did I go too far? I probably went too far. Ah. Hello? Oh, computer not happy. There we go. So, yeah, okay. At the bottom of default, there we go, enabled equals false. So you don't want to enable the default one. Default gets applied to all of the different jails you have configured, so you don't want to enable all of them. Most of them don't apply to you. There's like a default setup for a CSGO server or something like that, somewhere down here. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, here we go, or no, yeah, Counter-Strike server. So, I mean, I assume you aren't running a Counter-Strike server for CCDC. Don't need all of them enabled. Okay, so the next thing is jails. So after you set the default options, then you can set options for a specific jail. So SSHD. So by default, the SSHD jail has all of these options already set, well, except for enabled. It has the port set, the log path set, and the backend set in Ubuntu, and I think in most instances. So pretty much all you need to do to enable that is just enabled equals true. Super easy to enable a jail. Once it's enabled, it should work. Everything should be good. So if you want just like the super basic configuration, you can install Fail2Ban and just like enable SSHD in jail.local. It's actually enabled by default on Ubuntu, which is kind of an interesting thing that I didn't know. So there's a bunch of different other jails. I'm going to go through jail.config again. So you can see there's tons of jails, some for things you don't need. Another interesting one is this one, recitative. That's for repeat bans. So this one actually looks through the Fail2Ban logs instead of the logs for a different service, and then will ban you for a longer time. And if we go up here, ooh. Yeah, there we go. If we go up here, we can see this is the default SSHD configuration. You can just copy jail.conf over to jail.local, but I think it's better to build your own. You don't need all that extra stuff in there. So just doing this, that should enable the SSH jail. So whenever you make a change, you need to restart Fail2Ban. Just systemctl restart Fail2Ban. If you don't restart it, then your changes don't sync, and sad. So let's see if we can get an example of this now. So I have another box in here, client 1. And if you go into client 1 and open up the terminal and then try to SSH into 10.0.0.10 is the server, and DSU at 10.0.0.10, password 1bang as always, then you should see you were able to successfully log in. However, what if you were like, well, what if you were DSU and maybe tried to enter some password or really suck at your password a bunch, but you're some bad guy and you're trying to enter a bunch of fake passwords? I think it's 5 is what it's currently configured to. That looks promising. Yep, there we go. So now, oh, uh-oh, that's awkward. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Why is my computer not happy today? Okay, so that box just died. Interesting. Cool. Okay, that wasn't me. Cool, let's try it from client 2. So client 2 is a Kali box, so that's going to be Kali, Kali. Maybe, hopefully. Let's hope this one doesn't crash on me also. So if we SSH into DSU at 10.0.0.10, so we can SSH in, but if we try to SSH in and do the wrong password a bunch, oh boy, it is not running fast today. So it's good to not have the max retry too low, because then if you like enter your password incorrectly once, you don't want to get banned from your server. But you don't want it too high either, because like after 1 or 2 attempts, you probably got your password right. If people are taking 20 attempts to guess their password, they probably don't have a very good password management system, and yeah. Okay, so here you go. Now you can see, whoa, when I try to connect, it just says port 22 connection refused. So that means I'm banned. And if we go over here and look at IP tables, which is how the backend for how it bans them, you can see that these 2 addresses got banned. They're now in the IP tables. That's the firewall to not be allowed through. So yeah, they banned now, and they get to wait in timeout until their ban expires. Okay, let's see, filters. So filters are how it searches through logs to find people that can't log in. So if we look at filters.d/sshd, so default ones are kind of chaotic. They have a bunch of stuff going on, but you can see it sets a bunch of stuff. The important thing is down here, there you go, this fail regex. That's the thing that's like actually the filter. The rest of this is just a bunch of different settings, so it works for every different SSH configuration on Earth. So filter regex, you can see, is set to some more variable substitutions. So if we go up here, this is the main one. So you can see there's a bunch of different lines here. So like if a line's like authentication failure, something, authentication error, authentication failed, bunch of different log messages set up here using what's called regular expression. So regular expression is just a string that's used to search for stuff, kind of like quick notation for searching, except not necessarily quick. So there's a bunch of different things in regex. One of them is this one's the start of the line or end of the line. This will match any character, 1 character, and then this will match 0 or more of the previous thing. So right here, this basically will match any string of any length of any characters. And then, so this will basically grab their username right there, eat that, because the username is going to be different, but the rest of the message will be the same almost every time. So we can see in this one right there. So this is a bunch more regex notation, just different groups and stuff. So this is a group of things. So it's either failure, error, or failed, not all 3 of them. This will match one of the characters inside. So it's either authentication capitalized or lowercase, and then failure, error, or failed. For a username, and then .* just catches all characters for that username. And then from host, so that's going to get the IP address, and then this just grabs all the garbage at the end right here, and then right there that $sign's that end of the line. I'll explain that a little bit more in a sec. Okay, and then next, actions. So actions is what actually happens when someone gets banned. So if we edit actions, IP tables. So the basic IP tables action. Well, action has a bunch of different things. There's action start, action stop, action check, action ban, and action unban. They're pretty self-explanatory. These are going to be at the start and stop of the jail. So when Fail2Ban first loads and when Fail2Ban stops at the end. These are just setup things, so we can look in here. Went too far. So the start just sets up IP tables to be able to work with Fail2Ban, and stop just removes all the IP bans and deletes all the extra tables it added to IP tables. Check is whether or not someone's banned. So this just looks through the IP tables, searching for the name, or in this case, the IP address. And right here, so action ban and action unban, that's what happens when someone's banned or unbanned. So right here, you can see it inserts a rule into the Fail2Ban table that blocks them. And here it just deletes that rule. All right, and next is Fail2Ban command line interface. So I generally don't use the command line interface for much. It is kind of nice to get the status. So if we do Fail2Ban client status, that'll just show us what's happening. So right now it says there's one jail, and that's SSHD. So you can get the status of certain jail too if you want, so SSHD. So it's saying right now there's 2 people currently banned. Those are their IP addresses. Kind of helpful. Let's say that you accidentally banned yourself and didn't want to get banned. So like right here, client 1 got banned. See, yay, client 1's back on. So client 1 can't connect anymore. Not good. We want to unban them. Then we can do Fail2Ban client set SSHD unban P0.0.3. So that's going to unban them, and we can just unban both of them temporarily. They can get rebanned, though. So if they get another failed password, and then it's going to look in the log and be like, hey, there was just some failed passwords for them. Let's reban them. So it basically gives you one login attempt. You can also get stuff like this is not easy to see. So get SSHD filters. Oh, uh-oh. Did I spell that wrong? Get SSHD. Huh, okay. That's awkward. Let's try actions. Actions. There we go. So you can see actions right now. It's just doing IP tables multi-port. So that's just banning that one port on IP tables, like I showed earlier. So now that we've gone through that a little bit, I added a nice little Python service to this box called, actually this is in, let's make a new tab. So if we go here, all right, so we have this nice little service called my bad Python service, which is just a simple little service that adds a bunch of lines to a log. That's basically it. So we can look at the log right here, log, and it's just simulating some service where it has a bunch of users that are trying to log in. And you can see there's a bunch of failed logins, so it looks like that service is getting brute forced from this arbitrary IP address right now. So if we wanted to set up Fail2Ban for that, then there we go. We need a custom filter because this log format isn't necessarily recognized by Fail2Ban. It's not one of the common like SSH or something like that logs. So we'd have to make our own filter. Luckily, I already did that. We need to be root. want to edit filters / my bad Python service.config. There we go. So I have a regex here. So this regex, first of all, Fail2Ban strips the first, Fail2Ban assumes that the first argument or the first thing in your log is going to be time. So if you just have a normal time format like this is a pretty standard one, or a few others, then Fail2Ban will just recognize that and remove that for you. Otherwise, you have to specify your time format. So from the start here, so that's after the time format, it gets, so with our example log, can't paste, copy, paste, there we go. Okay, so it matches user, it matches a username with that **, failed to log in from, and then host. And then it doesn't care about the rest of the line, it just throws all of that away. We don't really care what their session ID is, we're not banning their session ID, we're banning their IP address. So we have that filter right there. Next thing is action. So we can also do custom actions. So I want to do a custom action, which is logging to Discord, because I like Discord. So if we go to action.d/discord.config, I added this nice little webhook in here that goes to a channel in the defsec. That goes to a channel right here, defsec Fail2Ban. And now you guys can see that. Turned it off because I was spamming it earlier. So this, in Discord, how you do a webhook, you just curl, which is sending a web request to a certain link. So basically, it executes this command. That's pretty much all you need to know about that. It executes this command, and that does the webhook magic. So action ban, that's the thing we need to specify for an action. Right here, you can see it substitutes in different things. So we have like name, failures, ban time, gets all of that from default or from right here where we find it, or from the jail config for that specific jail. So you can see it substitutes in the webhook, URL, the username, which is defined right here, the IP address, and then I also geo look up the IP, so it tells us from where approximately in the world it is. So, okay, so now we have our custom filter and our custom action. So now let's make our custom jail. So if we edit, there we go. So I made this file already, has most of the settings in it, and you can change a few of them. So making a jail, you first have to enable it. So right now it's enabled false, so we can change that to enabled true. Ban time, let's say ban them for 10 minutes. Find time, 5 minutes. And max retry, say 3 retries. So if someone tries to log in 3 times in 5 minutes, then they'll get banned for 10 minutes. And then for action, you can specify more than one thing for a variable if the variable supports that. So action supports multiple actions. So maybe you want to like notify someone that they were banned and block them, something like that. So it does the default action, which is the IP tables ban. And then it also does this custom action called Discord, which was that action that I showed you that just sends a webhook to Discord. And right here, log path, this is the location of the log. So right here, home DSU my bad Python service.log. That's this file right here that I just catted. So if we save that and then restart Fail2Ban, assuming I didn't spell this wrong, we can do Fail2Ban client status. See that now there's 2 jails configured. We have my bad Python service and SSHD. I just got pinged on Discord, so I think, okay. Okay, people are spamming in that channel. Nice. Let's see. Should take a sec. My bad Python service, is it? Let's see, so if we wait a sec. Yeah, so it looks like there was a few login failures right here. And hopefully, assuming, uh-oh, I broke it. Oh, I know why I broke it. Right, so in order for this to work, your box needs internet. Box does not have internet by default. So you have to go to Firefox and go to this login page. Oh, I already logged in. There we go. Now I'm logged in, and hopefully I'll start actually working now. So some example user logged out. Let's see if we can get someone to fail again. There we go. So someone's failing login. So this IP address is trying to brute force us, and hopefully, yep, there we go. So now that webhook triggered, sent a message, said this IP address was banned for 600 seconds because of 3 failures on my bad service. Kind of cool. Custom logging. So they also have it in the Fail2Ban, in jail.config. They also have set up for like email, stuff like that. So right here, they have some setup for a mail server, so it can like send an email to someone if it's banned. Tons of different actions you can do. Yeah, kind of fun. Okay, let's see what's next. Yeah, any questions? Anything else?
What else could this be used for?
Fail2Ban? You can ban things. Look at logs and ban things.
Could you ban web users?
Why, yes, of course you can ban web users.
Cool.
So,
Can I stop you and visit my website?
in the jails, we actually have a few already configured. So in jail.config, you can see like right there, that's going to do basic Apache authentication. They already have filters for Apache. There are tons of different filters already built in. So like some different things for Nginx, some different things for Apache. Up there you have MySQL, tons of different things already built in. So you probably won't need to make your own filters unless you have some like weird custom service. But if you don't have a filter already in here, then you can make your own. There's also a lot of built-in actions. So like tons of different things to do with IP tables and different firewalls that you have, like if you have NF tables instead of IP tables. And then sending mail, you could email yourself a whois for them. That's going to tell you some information about the IP address. Yeah, super customizable. Any other questions? We're good? Okay.
We should keep this running forever. Yeah, let's see how many spam in general.
Yeah, it's a little bit spammy. That's why I had people not. Nice. Okay, cool. So another note is we have a survey here, just how we're doing so far. Would appreciate if you fill that out. Give us some information on that. We do look at the feedback, and we got some feedback that people are having problems with IA Lab. So we are working on adding a new thing to teach you how to use IA Lab briefly. Cool. Now I'm going to switch to Shane presenting in just a few minutes. He's going to be